So this is a video response to the user, this is a bad idea, on a video we made talking about FDR and the Great Depression. So I've written my thoughts down here, just because it's a very big topic, and there's just so much for us to get through here that I wasn't sure I'd be able to come off articulately, so we should get to it. FDR's policies made life worse for the American. Measures like paying farmers to kill their own pigs are obviously going to make the economy, or the country, worse off. Price ceilings mean there's going to be shortages of goods in stores, and that's what happened. And further, World War II did not end the Great Depression. The reason that people sometimes make this claim is because if you look at GDP figures, you'll see a sharp rise of Americans' entrance into the war. Well, of course, GDP measures government spending as a significant contributor to economic health. Well, it's not. War is not good for the economy. Sending millions of people off to die. These people. The first thing is, you have a million people, say, in Europe, a million young men. Then they're not at home, in factories creating wealth. In fact, they're actively engaging in the destruction of wealth because the bombs they blow up or the tanks that they send over there that get blown up are destroyed. These things weren't useful in the first place. And so I'll ask you, would driving a million cars into the ocean, would that be good for the economy? Because that's what war is, only worse. And this is best described through the broken window fallacy, which is, if you throw a stone through a shopkeeper's window, the shopkeeper has to go and replace that window. Right? And then the glass man can go, etc., etc. But if you had it broken in the window in the first place, maybe the shopkeeper would have just bought himself a new suit, and then the seamstress would be able to go to the market, and the farmer would be able to buy a new plow or whatever. Right? Now, if Hoover and FDR had done absolutely nothing during the Great Depression, it wouldn't have been a Great Depression or even a depression. It would have been a very mild downturn. That's what you saw in 1920, not the 20s, 1920. There was a very brief recession, but you had limited government people in power. They did nothing. And the market corrected itself, and there was no problem. To understand, why it's important to do nothing, you have to understand the Austrian theory of the trade cycle, which is, it's a little beyond the scope of this video response, but let me just sort of outline it in broad strokes, which is, entrepreneurs attempt to predict the future with forecasting. And it's obviously very difficult to predict the future, but you have people who are successful on it, who continue to do it, and people who aren't so good and go broke. And, that's the great thing about market competition, right? Whereas government programs never go broke. They just anyway. So entrepreneurs attempt to predict the future. And then every once in a while, there appear a cluster of errors in their forecasting. So every once in a while, the majority of entrepreneurs just start messing up. Okay, out of nowhere. Well, not exactly out of nowhere. So why do entrepreneurs start magically failing all at once? And it's because of central bank manipulations of interest rates. Therefore, the bust is actually the healthier part of the business cycle. because it liquidates this malinvestment brought on by the artificial manipulation of interest rates by central banks. And if you try to prevent that malinvestment, as Hoover and FDR did, then what you're going to do is you're going to get stuck in the economic quagmire. And the harder you try to get out, the worse you'll be stuck. So you make the claim, the very important claim, that deregulation caused the mortgage crisis. You don't say which deregulation, or make a case that there has been net deregulation under W. You just make the assertion, let it hang out there. Now that's not true, of course. The mortgage crisis was caused. It was a bubble, right? People thought home prices would go up forever, and this fueled a bubble, which is also fanned on by easy credit that the Fed was putting out. Because the Fed always inflates. The Fed always prints money. It's in the government's interest to inflate, because the government's the largest debtor, right, in society. So when you print more money, you're now paying back debts with money that's worth less. The value of the debt has gone down. Of course, to some degree, this is taken into account. You expect the government to inflate. Now, if we had the deregulated free market that you claim we had, there wouldn't have been a big problem, because the market could correct these malinvestments. When you have a highly regulated market like real estate, it's very difficult for free enterprise, for the market to solve this problem. And certainly government spending on social programs is better than government spending on war. I agree with you there. But it's still harmful, which is a point that people who advocate for government seldom take into account. Not only the direct costs in terms of taxation, but also the opportunity costs of what that money would have done if left in the hands of the private individuals instead of redistributed towards the state. And certainly government spending does good, considering that in America the federal government is spending $5 trillion this year. It would be impossible not to do some good spending $5 trillion. But how much harm does it do? And more importantly, is it moral? Is it moral for you to use state coercion to spend my money on things I don't want to spend on? So, obviously there's a lot of issues to touch on here, and hopefully you watch this video and perhaps give me some feedback.